Oh
Thieves.
no, look at Iconic do right into the waiting arms of
He
Fuzio, but they don't actually want to go for the play just yet. Instead, trying to call the Forge Guard, but they couldn't do it. There's a lot of damage on the back line. They nearly got Ken beat.
Can they get vision onto the Baron? He flashes in.
Shop
is available, 1200. There it is! Time and time again! You cannot flip against Lawrence X-Yuzu! Because it's like, dude, my team is so far ahead, I can make this play, and even if I go down, it doesn't matter.
Pyrex is on the other side. Can you be a hero once again? He can!
No way!
Pyrex! Huge on stealing that. FlyQuest are still in this damn game.
Grand Finals for spring of 2022. Thieves Academy and Team Liquid Academy are preparing to get on stage for their final best of 5.
Hold up, Harry, can he clean this up? Can he save this game? GA from there. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to game 5. Team Liquid, a road to redemption, paved in retribution to reclaim what was taken last summer. Team Liquid are your proving ground champions.
Kill number 1. Here comes kill number 2. 26 for number 3. For 4, the king of Pentagon.
Danny with the most incredible play.
We are on the precipice of a new era in the LCS. The new talent, the North American talent built up on evil geniuses. There's one thing left for them to do, and it's destroy this Nexus.
In a year where so many teams looked abroad to try to host the trophy, where so many teams looked elsewhere for talent, EG looked within, putting their trust in young North American carries. JoJo and Danny have proven EG's strategy correct.
Welcome on back in, everyone. We are here for the LCS Academy Summer 2022 split powered by Verizon. I am Mizell, honored to bring us in and kick us off here for the Academy stream. I am joined by none other than the magnificent Cubby and the madly magical Mad Magical. Cubby, how you doing? I see you got a little bit of a different setup there.
Yeah, I'm great. Fortunately, I'm out in LA this week for top 8 of CLAW. Check that out over the next 4 days for sure, but excited to be here. Fun fact, I actually never left since we had the Proving Grounds finals. I just stowed away in this room. So that's why off season for me has been so long and painful. So the fact that I actually get to emerge now from my shell, we get to have some more games to talk over. I'm really excited to get this split
Finally.
going. Excited to do it with you guys too.
Yeah, 6 weeks is a long time, Magical. Hey, I saw you got some quacking done in the offseason. You hanging in there?
I think I've gotten it out of my system. I was able to retreat to nature as it is, just kind of get out off the grid and live off the land, and live with my brethren, the ducks.
Understood. Yeah, the brethren. Love being able to see that hype video kind of introducing us into a new season of Academy here. A lot of new faces. Speaking of new faces, a lot of roster changes, and I gotta go ahead and start off with asking Cubby, what is your favorite roster change, roster move throughout the offseason for Academy so far?
Yeah, so of course it is off season. We're always going to see movement. I tweeted out earlier, kind of by the numbers, how much movement did we see? 20 spots changed out of the 50 that we have for Academy. That's based off of the announced rosters. We will have some subs playing today, just due to visa issues across the league. But honestly, out of all of them, I think the move I'm most excited about is that we finally the Academy level. This player, it feels like we've been robbed of Sheeden. And, some of that is the background on Sheeden, unfortunately, has been comp banned previously for behavior. I believe that's been the past year and a half. But finally, Sheeden, someone who has realized that he wants to take that path to pro seriously, has cleaned up his act and his comms and solo queue. And now we get to see him hit the rift because there has never been a doubt about Sheeden's play. Seen his point of view. His play gets very excited about Sheeden. He's someone that was a common sub for these teams in scrims, someone that has gotten coaching from these teams in the back half. And honestly, there was a bit of a race and a fight to get Sheeden in the offseason. So the fact that C9 landed him, I think is the best move of C9's offseason, who I believe had a fantastic offseason top to bottom. and I'm super excited to finally see Sheedon compete with Copy as his mid laner too. It's going to be great to see if Sheedon can carry C9 to the success they have seen in Academy in the past.
Yeah, a lot of interesting things going on there. A big shift in focus for Cloud9 as well. I feel like Magical. What about you?
So while I do like the Sheedon move, I think that is one of the more exciting ones. But I'm also kind of wary. I want to see if he has something like a redemption arc, kind of like Jensen had when he was reincarnation before. Comes into this one, has reformed a lot of his personality. Really is here to play. But the person I'm actually more excited for personally is another jungler. It's Will over on 100 Thieves. I think that this player is someone, when we saw him last year playing for Dignitas Academy, of course he was really so fun to watch. And he was 16 or something at the time. This guy was popping off. And now that he's graduated, now I'm excited to see what he brings to the Rift.
Those are always the most exciting players when you get to see them develop at a young age, but then see them come back after a little bit of time away. And what happened? What's new? What's going to be different? For me, speaking of different, my favorite roster change is maybe not a roster change. It's the fact that FlyQuest kept the same roster.
Oh, wow.
A little bit. I know Team Liquid Academy also kept their roster.
But they're the
Academy,
champions. How are you not excited for the champions to give them the roster?
The power of friendship. That's what I'm
right.
about. That's what
Team
I'm
Liquid. They won.
All right, you know what? We're gonna move on for this one because I maybe cheated and broke the rules there. But those are some favorite roster changes going into the offseason. There's a lot of changes. That Cubby said 20 out of 50, so a decent amount of things to run through. But now also on top of the roster changes, we also have the durability patch, the new coming into it, and Cubby, it's gonna be crazy. I'm so excited for all the crazy wacky picks we get. I know Magical, you get a second to talk about it in a moment, but Cubby, break it down a little bit for me.
Yeah, things are different for this patch. I really don't know how else to say it. It was a complete overhaul. Like literally every champion, base health, more health per level, armor MR. Of course, you can't see that on the screen. If you've played it, team fights last longer. I think that's the biggest change for fans, and it puts a lot more pressure on teams to try and chain CC correctly to start fights and try and burst out that one single player, because obviously everyone has more durability. It is the durability patch, but also outplay. It feels like fights now get decided later, and there is an opportunity for outplays in the back half of fights. And I've been really excited to see like marksman play in this patch and also mage play in this patch, because it feels like there is more reward for positioning well throughout a fight and making decisions of when and where to use your abilities. I feel like in the long haul, team fighting is rewarded, and in Academy we do love our team fights. So I'm really excited to see how these teams have taken to that.
So Magical, all you want to talk about is the Swain champion just down there in the bottom left, right? You have nothing else that you want to talk about, correct?
Yeah, totally. No, in reality, I'm working on some content that we'll be releasing. I'm not gonna spoil that for you guys out there, but I gotta sit down with some of the players, and I talked with Jenkins over on CLG Academy, and he was telling me exactly what Cubby was saying right there, that these fights actually have a lot more skill expression because the fights will drag out a little bit longer, so you have more windows of opportunity to punish your opponents or get punished yourself. You have to play them far better than you had to in the past, just blowing someone. You're following who's going to engage, how they're going to get engaged, how they're going to get out. There's a lot more that's added to this. Plus,
yeah, true. As an ADC player, I've had quite a few instances of going into a team fight and seeing more than one enemy body on top of me and kind of letting go of my keyboard and mouse, thinking, "Oh, I'm just dead, like normal." But in reality, I survived somehow. So yeah, durability patch is very interesting. I'm really excited to see how these teams kind of pick apart the meta and adapt through the meta itself. Something a lot about what has happened in the offseason, the things transitions into the new season, but we also got to see a little bit of what players were up to. And I know for one, IMT Arrow, he he had some strong words about the gym. Apparently, he's being prodded into getting some gym workouts, which is good for any gamer, as Kungus would tell you. Unfortunately, Kungus not with us for the first couple weeks of the split, but at least he gets some representation here, right, Cubby?
Hey, healthy body, healthy mind. I'm here for it. And it's good to see everyone adapting to it. Also, Arrow's got to get in shape for the fact that he's going to be on the big screen. Of course, that Paramount
The
Plus show,
lips.
Players coming out.
Mhm.
Arrow going to be a big star in
Wait.
that one too. So
Wait,
maybe
Cubby,
Arrow's just
if
getting
he's
ready for
on
the Hollywood career.
show, if he's on the show, how is he supposed to get ripped for the show? If he's already on it, isn't...
Between,
I think he's trying to get the next
after,
Marvel.
all of those.
Yeah.
I
He
don't
wants to
think
be
I'm
the
following
next
your
Marvel
logic.
superhero. Yeah.
That's what it is. That's what it is. I have no doubt. We also got to see a little bit more from some other players, specifically Busio himself found a fan in Korea, just maybe a no-name fan, somebody that was just happened to be on the side of the street potentially.
Yeah.
No, there's Busio taking his boot camp off-season fan pick in Korea with the rest of 100 Thieves, as he did get to take a picture with the one, the only, and Faker.
I know the
You mean-
NA Carrier arc just keeps on taking more and more steps forward.
Wait. RNG and MSI, right?
I mean, I wasn't gonna
all
push
right.
them into the
know,
dirt a little bit more, but
might have
stay
lost,
away
but
from
still
that
the GOAT.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but I just gotta call it out. Just gotta call it out. Give respect over to the LPL.
Hey, gotta give respect whenever it's due, somehow, some way. But what were you gonna say, Kevin?
Of course, was his first time going to boot camp over in Korea. Did manage to hit Challenger before they left. So we will not see Busio this week, as Busio is traveling back from that Korean boot camp. But I'd say missing 1 week of Academy to have that experience for someone that we are really excited to see jump to the next level. It's less of an if and more of a when that happens for Busio. I'd say it's well worth it to get that experience under his belt. And congrats to Busio for making the most of his opportunities, hitting Challenger, and taking a picture with the GOAT.
Love it. And talk about maybe some inspiration. Darshan himself, very musically talented. Maybe he gets a little bit of inspiration from Coachella. Off-season time, hanging out with some musicians, hanging out at Coachella, the beautyscape that it is, and lazy NA player going to Coachella instead of Champs Q. No
exactly, that's the problem. Of course, no one should take a break ever.
I would rather have the Darshan motivation.
I'm just memeing.
Actually,
we
definitely did not.
Took a break. I didn't get sick. I didn't travel to Seattle. No, 100% just grind.
Didn't have a birthday. No, nothing.
Yeah, nothing like that.
But hey, getting to see a little bit of getting to see players in their natural habitats in Korea. I guess it's not natural habitats. But we also had another member of 100 Thieves spending some time in Korea. Tenacity, the top laner for 100 Thieves Academy this split, did get to spend a couple weeks there at the T1 facility. And I don't know about you guys, but a young player getting to spend time at such a legendary facility, being legends, like that is incredible experience for this guy. And Cubby, I couldn't think of anything better for him.
Yeah, and honestly, I think Tenacity is one of the more exciting parts about this offseason as well. I think the Will shout out for 100 Thieves Academy is great from Mad Magical, but hey, Tenacity playing again, it feels like Tenacity as a 19-year-old play, and the fact that he's playing an Academy and not LCS for me is a bit of a bummer, because I really believe that Tenacity is a good enough player to be playing an LCS somewhere, but obviously is a big asset to 100 Thieves. The fact that he's competing again for Academy, I'm very excited about for this split, and I'm really hoping we get to see glimpses of the same Tenacity that we have already seen in Academy, because he really is one of the more promising top laners that we have in North America.
So before we move on, can I just say that the T1 facility looks like you can just rock climb up it?
You think any gamers have tried?
It looks like a bouldering course, yeah.
It does.
I'm looking at that. I'm like,
what do you do when you get to the glass? I don't know.
That's how Faker spends his offseason, yeah.
I was gonna say that's where you find Faker. He's up there on the glass, just climbing himself up with no gloves, nothing. He's just
it's bouldering, man.
It is. Now, we did also have one more piece that we get to highlight from the offseason. Dignitas Academy did do a series of videos in the AAPI Appreciation Month just to shine some light on personal aspects of these players. And XU himself got to tune in with. Let's see what he had to say.
Everyone, my name is Lawrence. I'm also known as XU, and my family is from Shanghai, China. And one of my favorite foods is the Chinese soup dumpling. I really like them a lot because that's kind of like what I grew up eating, and when I went to China, that's what I would eat like every single morning. So honestly, the nostalgia plus the fact that it's just like a super yummy food makes it probably one of my favorite foods.
Always love hearing from XU, and gotta love me some soup dumplings. Just had some yesterday. I know,
So
Magical, you're a little
good.
bit jealous.
I
But yeah,
hate
it's
you.
making me a little.
Maybe
Oh, I want them so bad.
Chef Gamsu was helping him out there. You know, they got Chef Gamsu in the house now
That is
over in the
true.
Dignitas camp. Who knows?
all the changes. Well, speaking of maybe not so much changes, we are back in the Academy split. We are back with 2 consecutive streams going on at the same time. It is going to be a stream A, stream B type situation. First of all, on stream A on twitch.tv. 3 best of 2s today, every day. It's going to be FlyQuest Academy first, taking on 100 Thieves Academy. Then we're going to have Cloud9 Academy taking on TSM Academy. Finally rounding it out with EG Academy versus Dignitas Academy. That is on stream A. That is with us on twitch.tv/academy. On stream B, which is brand spanking new, twitch.tv/path to LCS. If you're not already following that Twitch channel, go follow it. Also, the Twitter, we'll get to that a little bit later. Team Liquid Academy taking on Golden Guardians Academy, and CLG rounding it out there. The other huge thing, Sierra and Deserex, our newest cast members on the Academy stream, are going to be a part of that stream. So make sure you go tune in. Make sure you give them some love. So happy to have them here alongside us. And you have to go follow at Path to LCS if you want any of those updates. If you didn't know we had new talent, if you didn't know we had 2 streams, there's an issue as well. Go drop us a follow. We post all of our content, all of our competitive updates, all of our amateur updates through the Path to LCS account. So it's a wonderful thing, ain't it? And now, Mr. Cubby, Mr. Magical, we got to get right down to it because we gotta start prepping up. We gotta start getting ready for our first series of the Academy Summer 2022 split. It is FlyQuest Academy taking on 100 Thieves Academy. One team, all the changes. The other team, no to the fold today, because when we're looking at FlyQuest Academy's roster, again saying no changes, but that roster itself did have such a come up in the later parts of the season last split, Cubby.
I think the story for both of these teams was a come up in the second part of the split.
Yeah.
Because yes, FlyQuest, you know, that group of 5, of course, top 4, just dropping that best of 5 in the 5th game to Immortals Academy and Proving Grounds. It was a heck of a story for them, especially given UG, Spyrax being rookies in Academy and some of the growth that we saw out of this squad early. I'm excited to see where FlyQuest ends up going from here, because it feels like when you do maintain that roster, when you have the same 5, you're going to be starting at a higher point in these other teams that made changes. And I want to see if FlyQuest really starts to go in depth with some of their strategies and free up UG and Spyrax to kind of play their game as these 2 players, you know, get used to what it takes to be a pro in Academy and get used to playing in the league. No longer rookies. Want to see what that second split looks like for them.
I think that's going to be super important in that adaptation. That mid-jungle duo we saw be so strong when they were looking good last split as well, Magical.
Oh, I mean, the mid-jungle duo, you also have the duo in the bot lane of Tomo and Diamond, how the rest of the team talked about them being the cheat mode. They're playing with cheat codes, having Diamond and Tomo in the bot lane. But that's one thing that helps out this mid-jungle duo. Because I look at them, and honestly, Spyrax was one of those players that really shocked me. Like, I expected him to do okay, but he really started to perform in the latter half of the season and into Proving Grounds. UG alongside him with his Kiana Lee Sin play, those 2, I think, are scary together with how they can form as a unit. And unfortunately for UG, looking at the durability patch, there's assassins like Kiana, not necessarily going to be as powerful. So I want to see what kind of.
I was gonna say I've been seeing Kiana. I don't know what you're talking about.
Kiana's over 50% win rate right now. It's not
Is she
bad.
really?
You know,
He's kind of
yeah,
scary.
all the assassins you can go bruiser and it's fine. So we
Oh,
could see some
that's
those
Kiana.
tank items
why.
on assassins.
Oh, I'm
Fine.
thinking like building them assassins, not because I'm like assassins aren't like if you build an assassin, not as good. But
Yeah.
going bruiser build, that
But
makes sense.
we are talking about, a little bit of those jungle changes, but I do want to highlight UG in specific. And as we continue to talk about him, show some of these clips to highlight this guy, because I do think, he came from it not as known, but he has really made a name for himself on the FlyQuest Academy roster, Magical.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
Or Cubby.
Cubby, you
Sorry.
yeah. So like this clip that we're gonna go through, I think this is something that FlyQuest in Proving Grounds, we talk about how they had some success. Some of that though came with coming or taking things and keeping them consistent. One of those was UG's pathing. Oftentimes, full clearing, top to bot, you are able to take these early dragons. This is a game where I don't think that's the right clear for the side of FlyQuest. You can see that Philip is behind in that Jace Malphite matchup because there is no jungle help up top. It was a game that FlyQuest did end up winning. That was not the start that I think you want. So I want to see FlyQuest open up the strat book for UG early. I feel like that was a band-aid fix for FlyQuest. The fact that they were pathing towards oftentimes their shot caller in Diamond and making sure they secured that early dragon to make sure that when they could give a dragon, they could come back with their scaling comps. So I want to see if FlyQuest are able to be more aggressive and make better decisions early with UG instead of waiting for the later parts in the game where FlyQuest really did excel as a team.
Very true. And on the other side of the rift, we will have their opponents in 100 Thieves Academy. Lots of changes, some things up in the air because of travel, but all in all, a stacked roster in its own right. And specifically, we have to talk about the returning two members now combined, Tenacity and Will. 3 debuts in Academy here in the summer split. And I specifically am so excited to see both these players perform, Magical.
Same here. It's the fact that you get two players that were doing so well beforehand in just 2021, and now being brought back in. Tenacity because he was the sub into Proving Grounds itself last year, and then also for the spring split this year. Seeing him back on the Rift is going to be so exciting to watch. And same with Will, having played for Dignitas Academy last year. He stepped out a bit so he could finish up school, but now he's back into the foothold of jungle position and for a new organization alongside someone like Tenacity. It seems like they're just trying to redo the Ken v Tenacity duo with a slightly different
I was going to say, he's stepping in for Ken V. Like, I don't even know what to say. I mean, those are some shoes. The full turn. It's an incredible thing. It's a lot of pressure, I feel like, though, to come into an organization that has been so successful as and to fill those shoes, Cubby.
I will say real quick, I'm not sure if Will is done with school yet, but it is summer.
I thought he graduated early.
I'm not 100% sure. But
I'll have to double check
I think that I know that it's something that like was a big reason that Will didn't compete in spring. But the fact that Will we were really excited about, not only given youth, age, potential, but also the play that we saw on the Rift. Keep in mind that Dignitas team in summer of last year, they really turned things around. And a lot of that was off the back of Will, how he played with Lorlo and Saligo facilitating that map for him. So I have really high hopes for Will. I think that, Tenacity and Will is exciting, but also you got to believe that Sniper up and coming in the 100 Thieves organization as well. Him is just as exciting with these two young guns, and I really want to see the starting point that we see Will as he returns to Academy. I'm curious to see where his competition level is at.
Well, let's take a look at
quick,
memory lane.
Wait, hold on. I got a quick update because I did just
we
check
have
out Twitter from Papa Smithy's tweet back on May 21st. Freshly graduated from high school. I'm super excited to see how far Will can develop.
The research.
Boom.
All right,
Live
but
on air.
I do want to take a little bit of a memory lane walk down because both, as you were kind of mentioning, in Academy before have been represented and competitive. And let's go ahead and take a look back. Shall we start off with Tenacity and look a little bit of why this player is known everywhere, but had to take a little bit of a backseat last split.
Yeah,
I mean,
I know the
Tenacity just sat back for a bit, but I think it's mostly because they really wanted to see if they could fit him in. He played in the lock-in. Sure, it was only one game, but he has this great positioning that he can see from Will too. So that's why I compared Will to Kenby. You're stepping into these big shoes, but this is a guy who plays first made his big splash in the academy.
I
Yeah,
I mean, I think that
think
with Will specifically, it's just like again, the ceiling this player has. Like the strengths that Will
true.
had were always mechanics. And when we're looking at a lot of these academy teams and who people get excited about, a lot of the times it's, if you have these teams that like to take that and try and mold that. That is definitely something that Will had proved that he has and also showed that he grew a lot in that split. Something else that teams are always thrilled if you can show that you grow early. Will has both of those things. And so I'm just really curious to see what the starting point looks like for Will and how he grows from there.
And that's not the only new points on 100 Thieves, right? Like we're talking about it's a little bit of a different story because they do have a little bit more of a track record. But here in the bot lane, BMFX is coming in, Cubby, and that's a huge change from Wixie of last split.
Yeah, and I think that for some people, this was a big surprise because, of course, 100 Thieves Academy talked about that scaling and really having a good second, or I should say, a poor second round robin, but a great proving grounds taking second. Wixie did play a part of that along with the rest of the team, but it was a swap for 100 Thieves Academy. And I know that BMFX, the reason that 100 Thieves are excited about this player is because we haven't seen a lot, given life, didn't play as many solo queue games to hit the rank that BMFX would usually hit. Usually it was like 200 to 400 games a year. That's very much on the low side. And when 100 Thieves kind of see that and then incorporate what they saw from his point of view in a lot of the tryouts, I know from talking with them, that's what they get excited about. The fact that they feel like this player, given the time that he's put into the game, is at a very high starting point compared to others. And they believe that if, they give him a full flaws that exist in his gameplay now, they think that BMFX can become a higher ceiling player than some of the other options they had this past offseason. So I'm excited to see if that ends up working out for 100 Thieves Academy. And of course, excited to see him lane with Sword because Busio, of course, is still in Korea. And I think it's worth mentioning Sword does fit the mold for 100 Thieves support, which is you must have played mid lane previously. But I think that Sword is someone that is a promising support that's up and coming and does have a good opportunity to prove himself again on the Busio did finish up his own high school graduation in the first couple weeks of last year.
He did, and I think that BMFX add-on on top of the difference in the bot lane, 100 Thieves is really going to be relying on their reintroduced top and jungle players to have a lot of say in these games, Magical. And I think when we're looking at this roster of 100 Thieves Academy going into the synergy that is hopefully built over the offseason for FlyQuest Academy, how do you think BMFX kind of fits into that fold and fits into this mold 400 Thieves going into that?
Well, this is where I actually think it's kind of difficult. Based off having not played very many games, so we don't have very much of a track record to really follow up. But the big thing for me is that he's playing with Sword. And while Sword, I think, is a fantastic support, and I want to see more of, it's the fact that he's not meant to be the mainstay. Busio is meant to be the mainstay. So if he does well, it's great. It shows maybe adaptability or going in with a new support that you haven't really gotten much scrims on. But it's also tricky to really quantify that in an actual way that will be like, okay, yes, he did great, but
yeah, also compounding that with the fact that they're going up against FlyQuest Academy, Tomo, and Diamond.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, they're sound Academy players. Diamond, of course, is the veteran, is the leader of this team in comms. Diamond takes care of the majority of calls, the majority of. Is also a very skilled individual player himself while taking care of all those responsibilities. So I think Tomo and Diamond are really going to give him hell in that bot lane. And I'm curious to see if BMFX and Sword are up to it for this game.
Yeah, and a lot of those, up in the air situations do tend to lead me towards, FlyQuest Academy having a bit of an upper hand. 100 Thieves actually being the underdog here in my eyes, right? Because you're seeing that synergy. I'm a big fan of like emotional synergy, but as well as team synergy. Sticking together is huge. You don't see it that often, but I do feel like when you do into the teams, and that's where I'm really looking for FlyQuest Academy to level up this split. I mean, you're coming at a
Right.
split. Everyone should be firing on full cylinders. Everybody should be in place to make a big run into Summer Magical.
Oh, I know. That's why before, when we were first looking at the rosters, Tomo and Diamond, the team calls them the bot lane playing with cheat codes. They're just that talented. They're very aggressive. They know how to get these advantages. Diamond as well as shot calling, something that is just always fantastic because we're calling his threat. And so going up against, essentially, and he's on 100 Thieves next, you got to go up against that. And that's going to be very difficult because if they do well, that's really going to speak many, many passages about them and how well they are. But if they fail, people might just say, oh, they're not good. Why are they here? But they went up against Tomo Diamond. That's not necessarily fair to then immediately write them off.
Very true. I do want to check in though, because thinking about the whole spiel of what we've covered so far, the one member of 100 Thieves who's not different coming into this game, Jimmy in the mid lane. I'm very interested to see how he fits into this, and especially Cubby, I want to get your breakdown on how does he approach the situation? I feel like because you have that synergy we've been talking about, but between Yuji and Spyrax, but Jimmy and himself needing to kind of cohese the team together here.
Yeah, I think it is worth mentioning, of course, a few minutes late for pick ban, but I did get word from production that we should be getting into pick ban pretty shortly. As I guess we waited a month for the start of Academy. We could wait a couple extra
Wait a
minutes.
couple more minutes, yeah.
Yeah, I talk about all the changes that we have. Love that you're bringing up Jimmy. And I think the one thing for Jimmy, and keep in mind, Jimmy is an import player. And Jimmy had a split where I think a Jimmy was learning English. Jimmy was learning how to live in North America, live away, from his home. And I think that when you go into the second split as someone that is an import, especially from a non-English, main-speaking region, you're going to be a lot more comfortable coming in. And I'm really excited to see if that is the case for Jimmy, because mind you, when he was in PCS, he was second in MVP voting to the player that Mazel is the most excited about in LPL, which is Doggen now. So I'm really hoping that we get to see that Jimmy for Proving Grounds. He had the second highest KDA of all mids at 4.8. He was a massive part of 100 Thieves making that second place run and that comeback from the worst record in the second round robin. I'm just hoping that we get Jimmy in the start at that higher level. Of course, he is working with the new jungler. Kendi finally got that much-deserved promotion to the LCS. Super excited to see him play on the big stage.
Can we take a moment? Can we it's just a moment of silence?
That's the true best move of the offseason.
He has left the building.
We should be applauding.
I'm
no
so
silence.
happy.
Yeah.
Hey, respect. But yeah, it goes back into that conversation of 100 Thieves have been that pillar of success in Academy and development, and now we have a new jungler to come in and develop and to hash out. We'll have to see how it all pans out. As I hear, we're ready for game number 1. So for the first series of Academy 2022 Summer, let's send it away, Cubby and Magical.
Thank you so much, Mazel. We'll see you after this first game. Starting us off in the summer, FlyQuest Academy 100. Lilia ban, the Talia ban as well. Patch, same with Gwen on the other side. I'm not saying anything too out of the ordinary.
No, yeah, you know what? I know you love your in the lab segments, Magical, but so far, pretty spot on. And of course, we do have a new meta. So if anyone has been watching some of the meta, keeping up, it's very different. And I think a big part at the moment, honestly, is still flex picks. The really popular ones we're seeing still, the Wukong early pick, that was big at MSI. We're still seeing a lot of teams first pick that. And honestly, wouldn't be surprised that is the call for FlyQuest here. Lulu, that's targeted at the COG Lulu lane, but also could be setting up for a Lucian Nami, which is still very powerful. And Lucian is a pick that I expect most of these teams should be ready to flex into multiple roles.
Well, also looking at the side of FlyQuest, if they wanted to go for it, Tomo Diamond were one of the first teams in this year to play the Lucian Nami, but they don't. Instead, they grabbed Senna, and you talked about there's a ton of flexibility into that bot.
And Senna, like from talking with some of the teams, I love players to say, Senna enables us to pick crazy stuff. Because some of the combos we've been seeing, you know, the Scion, we saw Cho'Gath finally get played in Amateur, a lane that I know like has been seeing a lot of scrim time, but just hasn't really made it as much onto the stage. You can do a lot with Senna, but the response strong poke lane in the Ezreal Karma, trying to chunk Senna out of the lane early and guaranteeing push very much in the early game of that lane.
Well, so this is where I was about to say, I expect Diamond to grab something pretty safe himself into the spot lane then. Make sure that you're not really going for something crazy. You're not going for the Nasus supports here. We're not seeing the Cho'Gath. The Tahm Kench has that safety layer against things that can poke out pretty heavily.
Ooh, and you know, FlyQuest, we did oftentimes talk about their IG oftentimes would path top to bot, set up for those early dragons around the bot lane. That, of course, means that their top laner is playing alone. Philip was a top laner that was pretty good at this, and locking in that gangplank tells me they're looking for that isolated solo lane. 100 Thieves, they respond with the Graves, will be the champion we're going to see will make his re-debut in Academy on, most likely for this game, as FlyQuest will most likely be looking to get rid of counters to the gangplank in the second phase of draft. 100 Thieves should be taking away some junglers that...
Well, see, this is where I throw it back to you. You talk about my lovely in the lab segments. Is there a guarantee the gangplank is going top?
I would put 95% of my chips on that magical. I know it's a Senna, but we see the Tahm Kench, you know? I appreciate...
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about mid. I'm talking about
mid. Spyrax has a champion Ocean. Not sure if Gangplank's going to be a part of that. As, of course, each mid not locked in. And I'm curious to see what 100 Thieves does going into the second phase of draft, because you do have the option to counter that Gangplank that ends up being the blind. Or if we see, you know, the standard mid pick on 4, so that top ultimately gets last say once they see all the champs in the game.
Yeah, so there, Kindred, LeBlanc. I'm expecting a Rise ban towards Jimmy as well, just because how great he pilots that champion. The Lissandra is an interesting ban to see, though. That one I'm kind of looking at, and it makes me wonder if they're expecting UG to play something more AP heavy so they can take away some of the CC control that you can gain from mid lane.
I think it could be setting up for an Ahri as well, as the Sandra is one of the matchups we are seeing into Ahri at the moment. So maybe that's the play for Chimian, but of course one more ban for FlyQuest. And actually taking away another mid laner. So a lot of target going down onto Jimian, as Philip, not worried about that gangplank, feels comfortable with whatever matchup he wants. And, you know, now that Tenacity's back in Academy, I do have to mention Tenacity's Aurelia. That is a pick that you can play in a gangplank. Aurelia,
that is true.
I don't think the durability patch did Aurelia a ton of favors.
They're calling it out.
Yeah, they're already calling it out as, oh, Diana. Let's go.
Yo, Diana Yasuo, let's...
So this is a lane, or a duo, I should say, that FlyQuest was running within Proving Grounds. And I think it really fits well as UG gets to play that carry along with Spyrax, and they get to enable each other. As a response for Tenacity, it's actually going to be that Vladimir. So more of the old school counter into the gangplank, but honestly, a champ that now later into the comp that FlyQuest has. I mean, if you drop down that Vladimir ult, you're able to pull. You can dodge out on the Diana Yasuo engage if you're very quick on the reaction for the pull as well. And this is something where you have a dive comp coming into you. Vladimir feels great in this draft. So I think this actually gives 100 Thieves the scaling advantage on their side. I think it's really important that FlyQuest are able to utilize this Diana Yasuo early to snowball the map, get going, and make sure they're hitting that 15 to 20 minute spike really hard.
I agree. I want to see how UG and Spyrax play with one another. This is there's a reason we've been hyping up this mid, because we saw great things from them in Proving Grounds. And this is a combination that has worked out fantastically. The only difference is, instead of playing, you know, the typical assassin normally for UG, the AD assassins, even if you can go Bruiser now, I know. But it's the Diana, going for more of the AP, which we've been seeing more out of the jungles lately.
It does enable some Yasuo to come in, which is a pretty sound matchup into the Ahri. Of course, that wind wall really against all the projectiles that Ahri's going to throw at you. So want to see if Yuji and Spyrax can step up to the table and make sure they're playing proactive around that so they can get their team rolling and don't fall victim to 100 Thieves scaling later.
No. And I hear we are ready for our first game. Draft is done. It is exciting to see how these two teams are going to come up against one another. But here
We're
we
back,
are,
baby.
Loaded up onto the Rift. Game number 1, FlyQuest Academy, 100 Thieves Academy. Both teams finishing towards the bottom in the spring split. But then the Sky...
And looking to keep up and continue some of the momentum that they built at the end of the split now, Mad Magical, as... Excited to see FlyQuest, of course, sticking with the same 5. See if they can work with this team and, make sure that they're able to, keep on pushing forward, keep on improving. The 100 Thieves, of course, all the changes, too. I'm really curious.
Same here. And just seeing how everything is going right now, I mean, it's the typical line of scrimmage. I'm a little bored by this. Everyone knows I like to see action, and we possibly could with how Will is positioning at the moment. He has that ability to go and try to invade with Sword right behind him, but he's holding off for a second.
So, Karma Ezreal, very powerful level 1. You get that Mantra Q, of course, and you can see FlyQuest being wary of it. As 100 Thieves, they will go for that late invade, Mad Magical, and looks like they're spotted as Diamond... This adaptation from Yuji. Gonna try and burst down the Raptors and hit level 2 to contest the red buff.
And early, because as you kind of called it out, that if there's the early game plays that come in from Yuji and Spyrax, that would help skyrocket and snowball this game out of control for
And I want to give
a
a lot of credit over to Jimmy. He actually queued the Raptors and took a couple of them away, so Yuji didn't ding. And I think that's going to help set Yuji further behind in this jungle matchup. So, like the fact that 100 Thieves utilizing the power of the bot lane's level 1, utilizing the power of the Graves, and trying to split the map and get it in their favor early.
Well, and getting that early red buff, taking that away from Yuji, definitely going to help them out. As we even look top lane at the moment. Look at how, I mean, it's not a dominantly, but Nasty's getting a lot of pressure on Philip, forcing him to, instead of focusing on the minions, focus on him just to heal up a little bit with the Grasp of the Undying. And this is kind of what we expect. We haven't seen, Vlad with the durability patch. Has been something that a lot of players are damn strong.
We did see it as an answer into Gwen at MSI, so I think that kind of helped start players getting used to it again. But it's really good to see Tenacity, return and instantly play that carry, get that counter pick, and make sure that he's using it to the fullest, as that was his choice in this lane. I want to see if he can drive it. The longest win con if this game does go very late for 100 Thieves Academy.
Do you put more credence on the picks at MSI than I do? Because, the Anivia pick, I'm still waiting for that. Hasn't really come back
that's
yet.
My favorite.
But I know it's a good pick. I'm just waiting for it as well. As right now, Spyrax getting a good trade on a Jimmy and utilizing the wind wall perfectly with Yuji nearby.
Oh no!
Okay, flash, just flash and flashed again for first blood out of Spyrax.
And honestly, it was a good attempt from Spyrax. I mean, that he had was at level 3 when that wave was pushing away from Jimmy. But Will now looking to respond to the top lane.
At the bot lane, away from Tenacity and Will, but bot lane we saw a trade back and forth, constantly putting pressure onto their lane opponents, both sides, making sure they're getting good trades.
But I think the big thing, and what really matters, the fact that FlyQuest were able to find a kill mid, and also because Ahri very mobile once she hits level 6, but not before that. So I want to see if FlyQuest does a rinse and repeat gank of mid lane.
Yeah, that's no way. So we got to take a look at this replay, and this play I think is just well done by Spyrax to set up, right? Because you can see where Yuji's positioned, and he's still got some time before he can join in.
And look at how beautiful this trade is from Spyrax. Again, saving the wind wall until he sees the projectiles, just playing in and out of it. And as Jimmy, and that trade opens up the the flash, I think, from Jimmy, and are trying to EQ to get the Q flash to make sure that guaranteed the knockup to land. Misses it, doesn't matter though, because that chunk was so good earlier, still nets the kill. Really good play from Spyrax.
Exactly, and this is that snowball. This is getting ahead, utilizing the combo of Diana Yasuo early. They needed that, especially how the jungle play had worked out before. Even if they didn't get a kill, 100 Thieves were able to get a lot of pressure from that. You can see it, especially in the top lane, with how Tenacity is bullying around Phil constantly, even forcing out that early TP just to get back into lane.
Oh, Sword gonna force the flash of Tomo. Well played by bot lane of 100 Thieves Academy. Of course, subbing in, you can see Sword has that bonus marked by his name, right? The 100X.
Yep.
He's got the zoomer mark on his head. Yeah, absolutely.
Should see a lot more of coming soon, and why I think on 100 next he's so important, but I'm gonna have to put that on a pause for now. Jimin has ult away from the tornado.
Still really like how that was forced out of Jimmy by the side of FlyQuest. Again, putting that focus on the mid lane matchup with this Diana Yasuo, realizing that if this lane is enabled, if Spyrax is enabled to roam around the map with Yuji, they can blow up the map and stop the scaling that 100 Thieves are waiting for in this game. So I feel like it's the right win con being identified.
And you know, it's funny because we kind of talked about it earlier, the dragon positioning, how usually in the past Yuji would just go for a top to bot clear over and over again. Get early dragons to kind of set up a little bit of a potential for them if they needed to get to in the mid game. But here, 100 Thieves have make any plays work.
This is a wild invade from Will, and he's going to get away with it.
Oh yeah, he's a maniac. Look at it.
In base, resetting, and Will is on enemy red.
I think it's just, yeah, there you go.
Oh my
Flash
goodness.
Going.
Yeah, checks the Raptors. We'll be able to see that Yuji just wrapped this up, so they can have a good guess that he's on Krugs. That means that Spyrax could be a victim of some pressure here in the mid lane.
It's still difficult to get on Spyrax, especially when you have a lot of skill shots. You could just put up a wind wall. Reason why I think that that is a BS ability, but that's just me. Going into this bot lane.
Just being honest. Oh, no flash.
Yeah, being honest. This is no flash Tomo and no Devourer from Tom Kench either, so he'll fall pretty easily.
And hey, huge props to Sword. That he got the flash out earlier. I love the proactive flash from himself to make sure they were able to make that play connect. Jimmy, and even on the hover, won't drop much mid. Losing the cannon is a bummer, but getting the experience still fine. Really like that play from 100 Thieves.
Yeah, but Spyrax will at least pick up a plate for himself. You're gonna take a look at the gold and where the gold leads lie. That's a pretty sizable one for Spyrax. Spyrax is still doing a great job at pulling around Jimmy and Udall. Plus, it's helping out Yuji, who should be. There will make kind of a maniac play, like invading the red buff when bot lane wasn't even set up, like you were talking about, Cubby. But here he is. He's doing a good job of keeping pace with Will, so that they can still utilize that potential.
I think big part of the game, though, right here is actually going to be around this Rift Herald, as it is now a concern overall for FlyQuest at the moment. Look at that CS lead in the top lane for Tenacity. Now, Tenacity does not have TP, so he's actually behind in items at the moment. Philip is building up a slow push, so this is playing Rift Herald in the favor of FlyQuest. Yuji has started it on a ward, but I think given the pressure that FlyQuest has in both of these side lanes, I'm not sure if 100 Thieves can fight, and if they do, Tenacity will be down items.
Well, it looks like they might give it a whirl. They've called up Sword, but they got the wombo combo on top of Will. He's going to be able to survive.
Sword's here.
The collateral damage to get away, but with an Ignite taken away, he's still alive. Yuji's going to be the casualty. A run for the hills, right back towards.
And the big difference again is Sword is here. Sword with that Mantra E was able to help save Will, help turn the play in favor for 100 Thieves Academy. And BMFX, he just gets to eat the wave. So overall, FlyQuest lose out on the play, lose that big window that they could have taken the Rift Herald. And I love the defense being played by 100 Thieves Academy.
Yeah, it's a great rotation, utilizing the fact that they have a pretty strong top laner who's bowling around Philip, who was trying to get a slow push, as you called out, Cubby, going, but just couldn't really get it in time because Tenacity could roam down. They've already got Sword on the way up. They had pretty much everything to pinch the two members of FlyQuest right at that Rift Herald.
Yeah, I believe we have a replay of the play as well. We're going to take a second look. Will going in, face tanking the Diana-Yasuo combo. Connecting on the UG as Will. Good flash to make sure that the space was bought so that Spyrax couldn't wrap him up. And again, Sword, he's the one that had the big shield. He's the one that landed the root onto UG, so they couldn't follow up that play entirely. Really well played by the side of Thieves and Sword.
Bot lane, Sword will get the last embrace damage as well as a little bit of piercing and darkness. So that way they force off Sword, and look at where UG is. While the Rift Herald play might not have worked out, he's been on that dragon the entire time. So forcing the recall from Sword will set up a nice dragon take for the side of FlyQuest.
And keep in mind that Rift Herald is still on the map. So we just saw Spyrax win a massive trade mid that might force the teleport out of Jimmy in here as he's going for the reset. And FlyQuest, they can try and set up this Rift Herald play again. So even though it didn't go their way the first time, it's still on the map, and I still feel like this is the right move for FlyQuest and their comp. They did get a few summoner spills out, so if they get on top of Will this time around, Will does not have...
Only thing though, when does he get a recall off so he can
When does he
spend
face?
probably his inventory? Because level 9 has always been the power spike of Vladimir. Past, present, future. He's always really strong once he gets the final level onto his Q, where he could just trade infinitely, and unless you're able to fully CC him before he can go into school, it's nearly impossible to actually kill him. And all he needs now is the items to back it up.
100 Thieves, they're starting this as Tenacity still doesn't have those items. I actually would love if our observers could toggle the gold. You can see how much gold Tenacity is sitting on. As Tenacity himself, actually, that's going to be enough to force out FlyQuest to make sure that Rift Herald does go into the pockets of Will and 100 Thieves Academy. So well played by the side of 100 Thieves.
Yeah, and meanwhile, bot lane, a couple more plates taken down by FlyQuest. They understood there was no play that they could realistically look for on the top half of the map, so they had rotated bot, and yeah, there's the goal.
Interesting to see as 100 Thieves Academy, of course, they will cede a few plates on the spot side over to the Senatom Kench. Tenacity was just able to buy. Look at all the items he now has in his inventory. That is massive.
Even gone for a Dark Seal, too, just to really rub some salt on the wound, saying, yeah, I don't think Philip's ever going to be able to kill me. Not anytime soon, at least.
And now, so of course, where plates are going to fall. We're out of the early game, as we do have to pause. Nice barrel chain hit by Philip that will save his life in this matchup, but as you properly identified, Mad Magical, that's level 9 for Vlad, so from here on out, he crushes this top lane match.
Exactly. That's my issue. It's like, yeah, he stops Tenacity from just outright solo killing him at that moment. Ooh. But it doesn't stop Tenacity from still being a lane bully in this matchup. He's got full control, and with Will right there, they can plop down Rift Herald, get some plates easily, maybe even get the turret with Jimmy called up.
Rotation from Jimmy, as I think they're going to wait for one of those plates to fall before they do throw down Shelly. As Tomo, that's an ignite, vaults.
Up right there, taking a lot of damage back and forth. They summoned Rift Herald, and look, that Blitz play going top lane. Tenacity's in his pool, but with Ignite, he burns down.
Really important there for FlyQuest that it ends up being all the gold going over to Will and no more to Tenacity, of course, who is that big late game carry. As FlyQuest, their bot lane, and the levels that he's been able to pick up is now Sword, might be under threat.
Flash, good flash to get himself out of dodge, but mid lane, Cubby, what's going on? It's day one, our first game of Academy, and they are just going back and forth, brawling it out.
FlyQuest do pick up first brick, so they are head on the play as Jimmy in. Will posture a little bit aggressively, just going to clear out the wave as the resets come in. And again, very important for FlyQuest, because as we set up in this earlier stage of the game, Mad Magical, we feel like 1-2 item spikes from the Diana-Yasuo. If it goes later than that, Vladimir will scale into Oblivion and is way too good in the composition that FlyQuest has. So I think the next 10 minutes for FlyQuest, they have to be able to execute to make sure they can give themselves the best chance to win this game. And I really think it's going to come off the back of Spyrax and UG syncing up and finding more of those burst plays that we just saw on the top side, catching Tenacity out.
Especially with a not minor, but not significant gold lead for the side of FlyQuest. They can utilize that for now to try to see if they can find a couple more picks, especially now that they've gotten Diamond and Toma out of the bot lane. They're just constantly getting more gold funneled into every member. Even Philip, you just rely on the passive from Gangplank, so even if he's getting bullied against Tenacity, he's still keeping up in that gold deficit.
Yeah, and also, mind you, yes, it is a 2k gold lead for FlyQuest, which is healthy at this point, but this is a fasting Senna. So, of course, you do get some a nice amount of gold from those souls, and that's going to the stacks, the souls themselves do help out. So FlyQuest pretty far ahead with their champs, the items and the gold they have. Let's see if they can use it. This BMFX will be able to get out of that.
Because look at top lane. Tenacity taking the turret. Pretty obvious. Spyrax was nowhere near. He's in the bot lane fighting against Jimmy with the tornado connecting, but couldn't actually follow up because Everfrost made sure that he had nothing he could do.
It will be enough to take the second dragon, though, as I think Hunter Thieves intelligently dropping this one, not wanting to fight at the... She's spotted on this wave, and Will is rotating. Will not be spotted as he goes for the point.
Not at all. That's going to be the screen put down, looking for the damage onto Philip. Collateral damage not even going to be used. Knew that Philip was a little too healthy, had some oranges to be okay as well, but this is given enough time for FlyQuest to answer back in mid lane, possibly even getting that tier 1 turret.
Yeah, well played from Philip. Again, the double barrel connecting onto the Vladimir guarantees that there can be no follow-up from Tenacity. So it will be Tenacity still continuing to be... Yeah, but FlyQuest, they're the ones who are utilizing the strength of their composition now to find leads on the map, and I think it's been really nice team play out of FlyQuest so far. Playing well to their composition and playing well into the comp that Hunter Thieves Academy has, understanding that they have to push the pace of the game now.
So, Cubby, this has been a really interesting game, mostly because there's been a lot of fighting. There's been a lot of skirmishing between the two teams, yet there's a total of 4 kills across the board. And it's not like a lot of these kills have, these fights have actually gotten any kills. They've just gotten leads so they can get objectives. Seeing the 2 dragons to the side of FlyQuest, the 2 turrets they've gotten as well. I'm just looking at 100 Thieves and saying, what is their answer? Do they try to now force team fights, or do they themselves have to try to see if they can posture around an objective such as the next Rift Herald?
That's a good question, man, Magical. I think the answer for them is time. And I think the real big decision that we're going to see out of 100 Thieves Academy is, do they fight for the 3rd drag or not? Because, of course, that will... They did draw Ocean Soul for this game, so pretty powerful soul, especially going up against some of the poke potential that Ezreal does have later into the game. Being topped off before these fights for FlyQuest will help them, as of course they are trying to all in with this Diana Yasuo, get nice and ahead early in the fight.
Interesting. They're looking for a play, but they got spotted out. Will pulled back in by the Moonlight, trying to see what kind of damage they can get on top of him. Yushan Barrage does a little bit of damage, but they're going to be able to pick up the kill for Diamond. Looking to see if they can get Tenacity as well. They jump on top of him, but he's pretty damn tanky at the moment. But Ignite is making sure that they can whittle him down. He's still alive. Jumping back in, Jimmy, and getting the charm, but gobbled up by Diamond, making sure that he can survive. UG has a little bit of damage, but they're getting low. The only one who's healthy is Spyrax. FlyQuest will be able to make it out alive.
And a huge heat from Diamond, make sure that this play goes in FlyQuest's favor as they went out on the 4v5, mind you. Because look at Philip. Philip still pushing in the bot side. Of course, the Cannon Barrage was able to contribute. It's Jimmy in, takes everyone's base. He doesn't have ult.
And no, Spyrax was waiting in the bait. They got the Natalia up for Spyrax.
Love what FlyQuest is doing in this game. Of course, we did talk about how they have to push the pace. They're doing just that as they force another kill going over to 100 Thieves. And Philip, he's piloting the weak side very well. Of course, this was Philip's strength in the spring. I mean, yes, Philip has burned Flash. Yes, he has been forced off of multiple waves, but Philip is still useful despite all the pressure that he has faced in this game. Cement the lead that they have now.
Well, see, Gangplank is one of these champions that has always been pretty powerful, but really with the durability patch, it seems like he's even more powerful. Something like Vladimir might be able to contest against them, but you can just see how much pressure that he has in a lot of these fights, such as obviously the ult always being important.
So we're going to take a second look at this one. Beautiful W from Diamond. Someone of the gas, but does find Will as Will It's just too much damage at this point. Everything connects. But the big difference in this fight is that, yes, FlyQuest are in, and yes, they're taking the target selection from Jimmy. Not going for the kill with Diamond, instead trying to find Yuji. That enables Diamond to land a beautiful eat, saves everyone on the team, make sure that FlyQuest gets that on.
Exactly. So they get away with the kill. They got the second kill afterwards with Spyrex hanging around in the bush. And looks like Philip about to do the same thing to Jimmy that Spyrex had done before. Got a nice barrel chain, but not enough damage. Still kind of behind.
No FlyQuest. Oh, Will.
They're playing aggressively right now. I'm more surprised by this. And then they turn their attention on Tenacity, who's still difficult for them to actually kill. Even if you've got Burn coming in from Red Buff or Ignite, Vladimir is just one of those disgusting champions when it comes to the later stages of the game, as you were calling out, Cubby.
I still actually really like that force from Yuji because it did burn the Vladimir ultimate. So he has no more Hemo Plague available to him. And look at that dragon. On the minimap, it's spawning very shortly. So I think without that ultimate, they were going to contest this third dragon. They have to drop it. Look at all the map control that FlyQuest has. It's got to go over to them. And this does put FlyQuest on soul point.
It does, and this is actually looking great for the side of FlyQuest. You had asked that they play aggressively, utilize the advantage that you can get from a Diana and Yasuo, and they have done so perfectly. 2-0-1 on this Yasuo. Sure, again, not the most kills in this game, but the pressure they've been able to get, they utilize that to take turrets, to gain vision control inside the jungle of 100 Thieves, and force them out of any sort of fight that could ensue.
And it's been big because, yes, we did, oftentimes talk about the scaling, especially of the Vladimir on the side of 100 Thieves, but in the isolated side lane matchup, it is one where at this point of the game, and because Spyrex is accelerated, he still feels comfortable as the Yasuo, and has prevented Tenacity from getting out of control big in this game. So, again, stalling out the scaling 100 Thieves, making sure that they are pushing forward as boy Will.
That's a lot of damage, and a nice devour once again, but with the charm on top, Diamond, he had to spit Tomo. Diamond, nice use of the ult, stretch the Incentive can keep him. Who falls, but finally it will be Retribution. They finally can slay Yuji, but now that Philip shown up, didn't get the barrel chain to connect that time around.
Honestly, 1-for-1, not bad for the side of 100 Thieves, but that could have been much better for them. I think that some of the play from FlyQuest stayed over, stopped the rest of the follow-up. Jimmian did have 2 ult stacks left to try and chase down Tomo. But the eat from Diamond and the space bought by Diamond and Tomo enabled Tomo to escape, prevented Tomo from falling. And I think that's why in the end it was only a 1-for-1 for the side of 100 Thieves, because it was a good start to the fight for them.
But I'm with you that this could have been far better for 100 Thieves. If we take a look at the replay, I wanted to actually have people look at where Spyrex is, because Spyrex is not a part of this. This should be a big win for the side of 100 Thieves.
It is a 4v3. I like that Will's pressing forward. And look at ult. Diamond, perfectly timed, prevents the Everfrost from connecting, that shield as well, just put Tomo into really the range of safety, and Jimmian can't get through this front line fast enough to get back to Tomo. At the end of the fight, Jimmian does have 2 stacks. I mean, if Philip's not rotating, Jimmian can try and push very hard with the charm to try and find Tomo, but because Philip was coming in, decided not to push any further, only a 1-for-1 in the 3v4 is now Philip.
Philip's feeling himself here in this match against Tenacity. He's actually taken the level lead against him. But Vladimir, look at how much he can heal back. He's got the sprints coming in from Ghost, and all the while, a little bit of a skirmish coming in the top half of the jungle. But it's Yuji who took the brunt of the damage. FlyQuest have to peel back from the fight with Diamond. Oh, I thought that he was far enough away that maybe 100 Thieves would have looked for the play.
So because FlyQuest is ahead and Philip's been able to catch back up, look at the inventories. He has that completed Maw. Tenacity just finished the Void Staff. So I think that does give the advantage back to Tenacity. He's really forcing the play because keep in mind, Tenacity doesn't have teleport. He is the dedicated side laner and is only able to join fights if he has shove and can rotate. So anytime FlyQuest can put him back in base, they can start Baron.
I was going to say, I feel like that's why it's so perfect for FlyQuest, is the fact that Tenacity has to be a side laner, and with the Maw, it makes so these fights will last even longer, and make it so that he's not doing nearly the job he needs to in those side lanes.
FlyQuest in very good shape this game, as the big part of the game, likely to come down to an Ocean Soul fight. Of course, Hunter Thieves did see that third dragon, but they must fight the Ocean Dragon, as it is Soul for FlyQuest, and certainly if Soul was able to be obtained by FlyQuest, that would spell the doom of Hunter Thieves Academy.
Tenacity fighting a bit against Will again.
Wow.
He's getting these barrel chains to connect so consistently against Tenacity. Of course, Tenacity will heal it all back up, just how Vladimir works. But the fact that, again, it's the play kind of delaying, making sure...
I mean, huge credit to Philip, too, because this was a blind gangplank. They threw no bans to try and help Philip in the draft. Tenacity had pick of the litter, what champion he wanted to pilot into the side of FlyQuest. And I think, you know, Philip, despite all the pressure he faced early, yes, he is down, yes, he is behind, but I think he's really performed admirably. He gets to the spot where they are now, which is total control over the bot lane river, less than a minute before Ocean Soul spawns for FlyQuest.
FlyQuest look like they have a good angle, even if it looked a little dicey for Tomo and Diamond to try connecting and just devour, gobble them up, spit them back towards the team. They've got the split push duty of Philip on the other side as well, so they can even look for a little bit of a fight on Tenacity.
No eat now. Oh!
Huge all coming in from UG. Flashed away, does not matter a damn, because Diamond can follow this up for days. They've got the tag with Tongue Lash. A little bit of heal coming in from Vladimir, but they're just trying to delay some. Will's underneath the turret, but look at how nice thick shield on top of it. Fire's got to be a little bit careful though, because Will can still battle back and do a lot of damage, but it's all worth it for the side of FlyQuest. They get kills, they get split push, they've got Philip on his own, probably solo killing via
That's a kill.
Welcome in to Academy.
From FlyQuest, that fight, that engage from UG was beautiful as they utilized the Diana Yasuo perfectly, shut down the fight before it can even start for the side of Hunter Thieves Academy, and that's got to be game. I mean, FlyQuest just broke this game wide open. It was going in their favor. They had the advantage, but this is what's going to break the camel's back as, honestly, at the start, I thought this was a good start for Hunter Thieves Academy because they do get the Devour from Diamond. That has been what has been preventing Hunter Thieves Academy from finding these big fights in this game. So I thought the fact they got this ultimate for free was huge, but UG Spyrax, they had other ideas, man.
Huge.
Wow.
With the last breath, as well as utilizing
Everything.
that was just perfect.
They made the durability patch look like the old patch. That's how good that wombo combo was for FlyQuest. Oh, here we go.
And here, they've got Baron, they've got a fight, they've devoured Will,
That's an
down
aggressive
right
beat.
to the team, so they can get a kill and a rampage for Spyrax.
Scaling comp, they tried to get into this game, but FlyQuest were not going to allow that to happen, as they were the ones that found the early lead in that bottom side. They were the ones who had this mid-jungle priority and were able to get out on the map and make plays, and they're the ones shutting down Hunter Thieves Academy as they're looking poised to take our first game of the season back in Academy Summer School.
Not allowing any time for the side of Tenacity to keep scaling up. Instead, it's nothing like the present, and the present is FlyQuest pushing into the base. Tenacity finally recalling a little bit late after taking the turret, losing 2 inhibitors for it.
Let's try and do anything that he can, as, again, any comeback mechanic for Hunter Thieves, it has to be a big Emo plague and a big Vladimir team fight as he's popping goes.
Popping it, looking for the angle, looking for the play. Gets a lot of damage on Atomo. True Shot Barrage only tickles 1 member on the side of FlyQuest with Tenacity, looking for Phillips with the barrel chain again, setting up the side of FlyQuest. Another moonfall, UG! Huge on that side, and that's an ace clean out of FlyQuest. Game number 1 of our Academy Summer Split, and FlyQuest came here to win.
And what a start to the split for FlyQuest. Again, this is a team, they are returning with all 5, 1 of 2 rosters that we have returning as the 5-man stack. What were the criticisms that we had of this team before? We felt like UG might have had a band-aid fix with some of the pathing they used throughout Proving Grounds to make sure that they got to the later stages of the game correctly. But what happened that game? It was a big level 1 invade from Will. They threw off the script of that game. They forced UG and FlyQuest to end that game as they were able to utilize that mid-jungle duo to shut down Jimmy and then shut down the rest of the map. as that was a very good look for FlyQuest to kick off our season.
It was really well done on the side of FlyQuest, and I called out before. It was, slow. They wanted to have these fights. There was constantly skirmishing going on across the rift, but not many kills, not many deaths resulting from it. But most importantly was the gold. While not many people were dying, it was all about the advantages you got from the objectives, and FlyQuest made the most of it.
I think a lot of that, again, credit goes over to Philip playing weak side. Because when Sword were showing up on the top side of the map to contest that Rift Herald, to force Philip off those waves, Tomo and Daimon were the benefactors of that. They were the ones that were able to step up, assert the early strength of Senatom Kench, take that turret as plates fell, and they were the ones that had a lead early and were able to help snowball the rest of the game for the map. I think Philip was under a lot of pressure, but by the end of the game was up 2 levels on Tenacity as a gangplank that game. So I know it was a quieter performance for Philip, but hey, that's the job that Philip had in spring. And I think that was one of the better weak side games I've seen out of any of our top laners in Academy, frankly, even thinking back to spring. So I think Philip really helped enable his team to take the lead elsewhere, end up taking the win for that game 1.
And game 1 to FlyQuest starting off on a good note in our summer split. We're going to toss a break. When we come back, we'll have our halftime show with our lovely host, Mazel. Make sure you stay tuned.